Hey Shannon, look, one thing I'm confused about, I'm looking at fitness trends and I keep seeing functional training trending.
Yeah.
And then I walk into a gym and I see lat pull down
Yeah.
and I see a machine that will help me strengthen my lats.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'm going to go on it.
Yeah.
Either when I try and grow my lats or strengthen it. But I'm probably not seeing a machine that I would think is functional. And I'm sure if I asked people who believe in functional training,
Yeah.
they might say to me, no, it's not a functional machine.
Yeah.
So why have it in a gym? What do you think?
Well, the reality is that we're, as a society, we're not, we don't have our kids going out running, jumping, climbing as they used to. You're not taking them to gymnastics as kids. So they haven't learned to hang or swing or climb with their own body weight as they're growing their body weight, right? So that would be functionally training would be, training as your body weight grew and getting stronger with that body weight. Now we get to someone who, is in the workforce, they've got a family structure, they've got lifestyle conditions that really restrict them in time, and they haven't been doing much of anything. A lot of the time, the range of motion that they use in their daily activity, they're going to move their hands from their pockets to their phone in front of their face to their desk and back. So a lot of people maybe are not even going to have the range in their shoulder to go up and grab a bar, let alone have the tissue tolerance to then go and hang a body weight that is overweight as well, and then on structures that haven't been subjected to those forces. Then that training that's supposed to be functional training is becoming dysfunctional because it's essentially too much overload for the structure and the tissue that person has at this current point in time. Doesn't mean that they can't get there, but we need regression tools that we can use, and we need ways to isolate specific issues for individuals so that then we can then manage their conditions and then build them up to a nice, safe, strong structure to then go and be able to tolerate things like doing that functional training. Now, obviously, there'll be some functional practitioners that will argue maybe that's all they need, but this also comes down to how good are you of a coach with the tools that you have in front of you. Some coaches are exceptional. If you're going to get a gymnastics coach, he's probably not going to need to use the lat pull down. But for everyone else that doesn't have that knowledge or that background, you're going to need to employ some ways to unload the person, be able to unload those structures, and then give them the load that they can then tolerate and build up with over periods of time. No one's going to recover at the same rate. You've got a 40-year-old lady who has, 2 children, both her and her husband work long hours. They dedicate a couple of hours a week to the gym. They haven't done anything for 20 years. They drink wine every night. Their protein's insufficient. The amount that they're going to recover and get out of training is going to be very minimal. So we're not going to be able to increase the load as much. But also too, where they are with that body that's 20 years of doing nothing, a lot of alcohol consumption, insufficient protein, insufficient activity, that leads itself to a structure that's very stiff and tight and doesn't move well. And then if we try and employ big force on it, then we're going to subject those tissues to a lot of destruction that they're not really going to have the machinery ready to start recovering from them. They've got insufficient protein. They've got a lot of other stuff in their diet that's not going to promote muscle recovery, you know what I mean? So they're starting behind the 8 ball. So we also need to start looking at the individual that's in front of us and start selecting exercises that are appropriate for that person. It might not be what that person wants, but you as the coach have got to tell that person what they need. People come into the gym and they try to tell their trainer what they want, but they can't see their insufficiencies. Sometimes the trainer can't either, but that's where we're trying to go with this progressions course, is actually breaking down those movements into smaller movements so you can start to employ them with a wide range of clientele, because that's what a personal trainer is. You have such a broad demographic. It's not a small demographic. You're not just dealing with sports people. You get someone who's injured, someone who's extremely fit, and then everyone in between. And we've got to start to make our model be able to suit that person and suit how they even present on the day. Energies and stress and everything within your body can fluctuate massively. Everyone knows if you get the flu and you go into the gym, how strong are you? You're not very strong. The reality is days like that happen. Days like that happen when you don't have the flu. and you've got to go into the gym and train. What do you not train? Because now I can't complete chin-ups. But then can I go to a lat pull down and take the weight to 50% and still get some activity in and still get some movement that at least then helps me to push stuff through my system. It does not allow my tissues to get stiff and taut or allow me to lie in bed for too long and create like all the other issues that go with just lying down too long. You know what I mean? You're getting some movements and function. So lat pull down, it's not a useless tool. Everything needs context. And the context with the lat pull down is we need to be able to change how people's shoulders just move different. They're all different shapes. They've got all different restrictions. They've got all different levels of strength. And we've got to be able to train them in a multitude of directions as well. We can't just work on just one specific tool. But it doesn't mean that can't be someone that's very good at using that tool to implement it with a wide variety of people. That's where the art of coaching comes in.
So do you think you could give me a few tips on how we could use a lat pull down with a different viewpoint? Perhaps some things that we could use the lat pull down for that we mightn't have thought of in terms of just our conventional training?
Yep. Okay, so we can go down to a single arm handle. All right, so now we've got, a lot of people just jump straight on the big handle, go wide, just doing a standard pull down. A lot of the time you're going to favour one side over the other, okay? And that also could be an issue why people starting to get a sore elbow and a chin up or something like that. Maybe you're overusing one side of your lat, or one side of your lat is stronger than the other, or the biceps stronger than the other in that pulling pattern. So you need a way to then, can we build extra volume on the other side to make up that discrepancy? So we could use something like this, lat pull down. Obviously, depending on the height of the lat pull down, is it adjustable? How tall is that person? And we can obviously do many different lat pull down techniques. We can pull down to the side. We can do ones where we get the QL involved. We can also come back and do like a high row style pattern. We could also then start to add some sort of rotation aspect into it if that needed, or just the simple fact of having this shoulder being able to work through that full rotational pattern within a horizontal or a vertical pull pattern.
So I certainly, a couple of things I notice is one, single limb versus double limb training looks like an excellent way to address that aspect of exercise.
Yep.
And I just noticed what looks like 5 or 6 different movement patterns.
Yep.
Because he touched on movement variability before and why it's important. So perhaps the lat pull down really does offer a lot more than we initially think. It's not just a bar and a simple vertical motion.
And it's not just for the lats, you know what I mean? Like obviously we can do a vertical and a horizontal pulling, but you could do some rotator cuff style work, or you could do some sort of internal rotation pattern, or you could set up a low pulley and do an external rotation pattern. We've also got lateral raises, or using the lat in isolation with a straight arm pull down, tricep extensions. So there's obviously many different patterns and many different ways that you can train the shoulder. You can work like some sort of cross rear delt pattern as well, rotation within it. So there's obviously many ways you can access different parts of the body. They're all obviously exercises that are not all geared towards strength, or hypertrophy, but the body requires that you train everything for it to be a sufficient organism. If we're only training one aspect of fitness, just strength, you're going to adapt to just strength, and the reason you get injured is because now you have insufficiencies in all the other areas. The reason an athlete gets to the party and is good and survives their sport is because their body doesn't have missing links. It can run, it can jump, it can climb. It just doesn't have an insufficiency in a shoulder or a hip or a knee, or they don't necessarily have bad habits. So a way then we can use this is then start to identify that individual's bad habits, and then start to use this to start to train those out of the system as well, or support. The other side is it's supporting something that maybe your sport lends to a lot of force within one direction, and now we've got to be able to work out a way, can we train in the other direction just to offset some of that tension for long-term health and sports development as well.
Actually sounds very functional to me,
Yeah.
now that you explain it in that light.
Yeah.
So Shannon, if I don't have a lat pull down in my gym, is there any other ways I can replicate some of the movements you just showed me? What else can I do if I don't have a lat pull down?
There's obviously many ways we can. We can obviously, like we said, we could go to the chin-up bar and start moving our body in those sort of manners, but we're going to again need a way to unload the body. So you could use bands on a chin-up bar, or you could attach bands to the top of a chin-up bar or some high point, and then you could sit down and start to mimic the same movement. The only difference is it doesn't necessarily match the strength curve as well, because we're talking about a band that gets stronger as you come down, and as you're doing a horizontal or vertical pull motion, you generally get weaker towards that end range. You're stronger at that end range, not at the beginning range. So the band is going to match an extensor pattern a little bit better, but that doesn't mean you're still applying load, you're still applying stress, you're still applying force, you're still challenging a position. And training is just adaptation. You subject it to something, it's going to adapt. You subject it to something that's really hard and forceful over a long period of time, the tissue breaks down, it gets irritated, it gets injured. You subject it to small forces that the body can then successfully recover from, then it gets stronger in a fashion. So there's many ways, because we're training, like some people might even say, they just discount the ability of not even using a machine. If your arm hasn't gone past there in 10 years, if you really reach above your eyes, just lifting your hand up and just getting that ability to start moving your scapula up and down and moving your arm around pain-free might be enough load or movement to really subject that tissue to the tolerance that it currently has. If you can't move your arm around like this, maybe jumping on a lat pull down or a band we're way too high on the continuum as well. So where is this person starting at? And then, okay, do we need to find a gym to get the lat pull down? Okay, or can we use bands and whatever to start loading and changing how we access those tissues?
Sounds good.